Good morning and welcome to the Elevate Renatus team call. My name is Keely. Today is September 15th. It's Takeoff Tuesday. As of right now, we have 49 participants on the line. Make sure that you do reach out to your team. We don't want any ICMs left behind. I wanted to welcome some of you on the call with us this morning. Good morning, Andres and Alvin. Good morning, Anne and Arif. Autumn, Berta, welcome. Good morning, Bilal and Bill. Good morning, Bobby. Celeste, Charbel, good morning. Happy to have you here with us. Good morning, Conrad. Corey and Ron, good to see you here. David, Deborah, Doug, Eric, Esther, Gilda, Glenn, Isaac, good morning, good morning. Hi, Jenna. Good morning, John, Julie, Kim, Leo, Leslie, Lester, Laureen. We have M. Beltran, Melissa, Brett Solomano, good morning, Brett. Midiana, Nancy, Nyaces, O'Keith. Good morning, O'Keith. Good to see you here. Pamela, Pete, Rob, Robin, Sheldon, Sylvia, Tamara, and Wanda. Awesome. Really, really great to see you all here this morning. So we've got a fantastic trainer with us this morning, Bill Predebon. Bill spends an hour with us each and every Tuesday to share with us just what's on his mind and what's been working for him. He has created a lot of success in both the marketing side of this business as well as the real estate side. And just some of Bill's background, before Renatus, he was a pro skier for 10 years in Vail, Colorado. And after doing that for 10 years, he realized he was not qualified to do much else and that he should probably start looking at other income opportunities. He got into a franchise. He bought a couple of stores, and due to lack of knowledge, he ended up losing everything, and he actually lost the business. In 2007, he heard about real estate investing, but he did not seek out education. He just knew that, real estate investing was going to be something that he could get into, that he could make some good money. And this was right around the 2008 crash. And so he ended up being upside down in over $400,000. And again, that was pretty much due to just not getting himself educated. So then he found Renatus after that and made 8 times more in his first year than he did the previous year as both a loan officer and a realtor. And Renatus has really been able to, Renatus enabled Bill to get up out of that hole that he was in. And ever since then, if we fast forward to today, but Bill has now completed well over 150 transactions. He does a lot of fix and flips, and also has just a really nice mix of different types of rentals, long-term and short-term. I know he's also done lots of short sales, lots of wholesales. He's got a lot of great experience in the real estate world, and he has grossed multiple 7 figures in real estate. He's also a marketing leader and a PIT team member, meaning he's in training to be on the PAC, the President's Advisory Council. And we're very, very fortunate to get to learn from Bill this morning. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm technically challenged, as always. I couldn't get my video button to work. Interestingly enough, I'm good. I'm great this morning. Good morning to you. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
You look great as always. Everybody does. Thanks for introducing and saying hi to everybody for us. Welcome, everyone. So stoked to be here and so excited to see everybody. And these names, I just love going through and seeing everybody's name. And men and women. I'm excited to bring some value to everybody and some excitement and some training and some fun. So Keely Beals, thank you so much again, as always, for just putting it all out there and getting this done and stepping up over the last, 6-8 months, especially getting us online, not just here, but with Team Elevate and everything you're doing behind the scenes that I'm sure a lot of people aren't even aware of. I just really appreciate all your input on our masterminds, and it's awesome to see your success and work with you and to be introduced by you. So thanks. That is so cool. All right. So we're going to kick it off. Keels, here we go. 760-533-3141. 760-533-3141. All right. That is my cell phone number. I actually have a calendar now set up believe it or not, after 50 years of doing this, whatever. So that I'll get out to everybody maybe next week. And I got my assistant that set it all up. It was not me. And so I'm pretty stoked about that. So, but as you guys know, if you ever text me or call me and I don't get back to you right away, please just reach back out to me. Just means that I forgot or your message got buried or whatever it was. And I just was looking for the right time to get back to you. So that way I'm reminded, and it's not offensive at all. Like, you're not bothering me. So cool. One of the things I wanted to put out there for you as we go through this today, I'm going to tell you a few stories about what some recent marketing and one-on-ones that I've been doing, and just share with you some of those experiences, and then we can talk about that on the training. I figured maybe that might be cool. One of the things that I thought about this morning when Keely was doing my introducing me is that I'm going to tell the story from an experience last night at a one-on-one. But if there's ever something you guys have a question on, you're welcome to ask or interrupt or raise your hand or come off mute or type in the chat. But if there's something you want to know, like, about me and like, uncut on my journey through Renatus that would help you and yours, then just let me know. Just, be like, hey, what about this? What did you do here? Whatever, how did you do this? Or whatever it is, real estate or otherwise, whatever you can think of about whatever you've heard me talk about over the last, I guess, year and a half or so doing this, what it is that you might be curious about or whatever that might help you, if that makes sense. So I wrote it down as what do you want to know about me, meaning like about my journey through Renatus, because it's simply a journey. So I just put that out there. So last night I was on a one-on-one with a guy, Jesse, and it's interesting. So he's pretty interested in what we've got, pretty motivated, and not coming from a situation of great financial background. He's fixed his credit, but he's also got in trouble. He's bought a house, and he's got a couple kids. He works 2 jobs. They're good jobs. Just a good dude, and just normal life. But it's a tough, qualified individual, right? The desire is there. I call it raw, right? He's ready for a change. He's ready for this to happen. He's willing for this to happen. He's willing to put in the time, although his time is as tight as everybody else's, right? He's got a full-time job, a part-time job. His wife stays home with the kids. He's got 2 young kids and an older daughter, a bunch of bills, and just life, right? And he's tired. And so, but he's not able to get started with Renatus. So, one of the things that he said to me at a property tour a week ago, I had a live and online property tour, and I met with him afterwards. And he says, well, I have a house that I own free and clear. And it's in the Midwest, Southwest, I don't even know what, Southeast, I guess you'd call it. And he, I said, well, we'll talk about that. And one of the things he said to me was, I've got a lot of debt that I want to get taken care of. All right. And you guys are going to get all versions of this. But so naturally, if anybody is considering things that are going to happen, it is very easy not to consider education, right? And not to consider investing in a long-term return in order to pay the debt. But I happen to mention, I said, listen, perhaps you want to, and he actually used this word, manage your debt, right? And we can leverage this asset and we can manage the debt. But if we learn to invest in the education and then we learn to create money, and I know you all know this, right? We learn to create and we learn to, whether it takes 12 months or a year, doesn't matter. If you can manage the debt and still get the education, yeah, you want that instant gratification of paying off the debt and being debt free or just not having that burden, because it's heavy burden, right? It's not just, I got a couple credit cards, it's heavy burden. And so the minute you come into some money, even if it's a paycheck bonus or whatever it is, it's It's let's just get rid of this problem, right? But then the problem's over. And typically the behavior hasn't changed. And if the behavior doesn't change, the problem will re-arise, right? And I'm going to share a story with you about that. And so, so he was open to that. So when we went out last night, we were talking about it, and you know, imagine if you could, when we're talking to prospects, you know, most of the time we have to overcome what they've already thought about for the money, right? But the idea behind the education is, you know, I use this analogy, and you know, if you're, I don't know where this came from, but I say this all the time, right? And it stems from, you know, you give a guy a fish or teach a guy to fish, right? And everybody knows that. But like, imagine if you're on a boat, and you're on a fishing boat, and I don't even know why I'm using this because I'm vegan, but we're going to pretend we never kill any fish. Okay, so this is you, right? And you're fishing, and you catch a fish, but it's taking you the whole day, and it's kind of nice. You got family or whatever it is, friends on the boat, and you're fishing, you catch a fish, and then you go downstairs and you eat the fish, right? And the thing is when you're eating that fish, you don't know what's going on around the boat the rest of the time, right? The boat's still going, right? And if you have no other lines in the fishing, right? And I'll even get to that, but all of these other fish could be swimming by. In fact, your boat could be going through a school of fish. It could be going through an area where it's very populated with a different type of fish. But you're eating your fish, right? You're downstairs, you're cooking it. You know, you caught the one fish, someone helped you catch the fish, whatever it is, and you're eating the fish. And then if you don't have other people fishing for you, if you don't have systems in place where other poles are in the water, right? You understand where I'm going with this, then you're going to miss all these other fish. And those are your opportunities that are just going by, right? And let's just say you get back up there and you fish more. So now you have less time to eat your fish because you're the only one always fishing, right? But when you have lots of people fishing for you, one pole might get wrapped up, one pole might get snagged, one line might break. But you have other fishing poles, other lines in the water, right? We're talking about leads, and we're talking about, you know, all of the things that are possible. But most of us, we just think about satisfying the immediate need. And it's not just us here, it's the prospects we're talking about. I'm talking about working with our prospects. So you've probably heard a version of this story to some extent, but let me tell you, when I was 23, I told you this, I'm going to go on a little bit twist on it. When I was 23, I had this friend, and he had a Viper, okay, and he was 19, and so the car was really badass, and it was yellow, and it's an $80,000 car back in 1993, and I was like, dude, how are you driving a Viper? This kid was he was a ski patrol guy, right? And so we get to talking, and he talked about real estate. He's like, well, I'm also a realtor. And I was like, oh, you know, I didn't really even know what a realtor was. And then honestly, and I didn't know nothing about real estate. And he goes, well, let's sit down. And so we went to dinner, we went to lunch, and he's like, it turned out he had a deal. He's like, well, do you have any money? And I said, well, I'm getting $10,000 from my grandmother. She didn't pass. She just was giving me and my sister a $10,000 gift that you can do for tax rate, right? And and I had a bunch of credit card debt, probably to the tune of 10 or 12 or 15 grand. And you know, back then I would make good money during the winter skiing. And then 4 months out of the year, I didn't make any money. I'd usually travel, and I'd spend more money than I had, put it on credit cards. And then I'd try to pay them off. And then months would come, and I'd have to call my dad at 23 and ask him to pay a $125 truck payment, right? So he says, well, do $10,000 down, and I'm going to give you this house. It's going to be an owner finance deal. And this was a decent house. It was 1,600 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 2 bath, at the base of Beaver Creek Mountain in Vail, Colorado, up in Avon. And it wasn't anything special. It was, you know, probably a 1980s house or whatever. And I kind of did the math, and I could rent out the rooms for like $400 a piece. So I'd either get my room, like I could get the big master suite myself, and then maybe pay $200 and rent the other ones out for $500. And then I was like, I could probably even rent them out for more and almost live for free. And I was thinking all these scenarios. So I gave the guy the check for 10,000, and we went into escrow, and it was going to be an owner finance deal and it was an owner finance. I was going to own it. It wasn't a lease option, and which I didn't even know anything about, but he was walking me through it. And I can't believe this story. I hate this story. And so it was 5 years at 8% interest. It was a $1,600 a month payment, and of course I'd have all the bills, but because I own the house, and it was $10,000 down. And so it's a quick escrow, like 2 weeks. And I called my dad and I talked to my dad about it. And my dad, is an engineer, and my dad's my hero. Like, my dad's the greatest dad in the world. And he's like, I don't remember exactly, but he's like, what if the furnace goes out, right? We're in Colorado. You can't have the furnace go out, and that's expensive. And then what if, like, one of my buddies doesn't pay rent, or, somebody leaves the house and then I can't get another renter in, and something breaks. And we're just talking about stuff. And I was like, he's like, you can't be calling me for your mortgage payment. That's $1,600 a month you got to pay. And there could be problems. And you're already calling me for a truck payment every once in a while. I'm like, So long story short is, I asked the guy for the money back. All right. And my dad talked to me about the credit cards that I had. He's like, if and when down the road things are a little bit better, that would be a great opportunity for you to buy a house. And I backed out, you guys. I backed out of this deal, and two things happened. All right. Number one is the house turned out. I tracked the house a long time ago. And in 1996, Vail, Colorado, the mountain and the resort, won the bid for the 1999 World Championship winter ski races, right? And so with that comes, like when someone wins the Super Bowl, the city prepares for a couple million people to come in town for a month at the time, right? The Super Bowl is a week, but these ski championships are over 2 weeks long, and so they started to prepare, and part of that was preparing the base of Avon Mountain, Beaver Creek Mountain at Avon, and through eminent domain, I believe, the property sold, which was 6 years later, 1998, for over $1 million, like 1.2 million, and I would have paid $250 for the house. And so the opportunity obviously was lost for me to appreciate in Colorado, as you can imagine, appreciation in the town, let alone this house selling, right? And the second thing that happened is I took the $10,000 and I paid off what? I paid off my credit cards. And for a while I was okay. I had more money at the end of the month. I had no debt to speak of. I didn't have to call my dad anymore for a $125 payment. But my habits didn't change. I was still a professional skier. I made good money in the winter, and I was broke in the summer. And in 2 years or less, really about 18 months, my credit cards actually increased in limits. I got more credit, and I maxed them out again. And by the time I was 25, I was in debt again, to the tune of $20,000, 15,000 at least I know of, maybe another 5 for another bill that I had. And so the whole process started over. So it went in the opposite direction. And I was explaining this last night to Jesse, right? Jesse was thinking about leveraging this house in Mississippi and then taking the money and paying off $40,000 worth of debt. And naturally, I'm not going to tell Jesse what to do, but I'm having a conversation, you guys, about stories and about what's possible, right? And this is this is in a one-on-one. So remember, one-on-ones are not me asking questions about, hey, what do you want to know about the education? What do you want to know about? What do you want to know about? What it costs to put a down payment down. That's, we talk about that for seconds compared to talking about real life stuff. So, Jesse's like, well, I just don't know what to do. Like, what's the steps? I'm like, step one is we got to decide, right? He's like, well, I'm thinking about getting a bank. And I'm like, well, how's your credit? And he's like, it's 620. And I didn't say, how is your credit? I said, do you have the credit to get a loan? He's like, well, I don't know. It's around 620. And I gave him some examples of some banks that I know. Reliant Bank out of Tennessee, for example, is a good Midwest bank. Flagstar Bank is a great bank out of Michigan for the Midwest and Southeast. And so we started talking about that. I said, the other thing is, and I wasn't going through like a list of funding options, right? But what I'm doing is I'm talking about his real life situation and where he's at. So through asking questions about Jesse, I was able to extract that, he works at FedEx, and you guys all know that FedEx has a very good retirement plan. These people stay in that business for a long time. And I said, you can get a private money loan. And again, I always reference the education. These are some of the things that you're going to learn. I said, but in the meantime, I can help you. If someone's interested, maybe they have a retirement account that they could borrow against, and you could leverage your house with a private loan. Then there's no qualifying for the bank. You don't have to worry about your debt to income. You don't have to worry about a traditional loan. Now, naturally, your payment might be a little bit higher, but he's already renting the place out for $500 a month. He's owned it for multiple years, free and clear. So he's got this asset. But his idea was like, given his wife's situation, the stress when he's tired, when he comes home, he's working 2 jobs. He'd like to quit another job. The concept was, listen, I can't tell you what to do with the money. If you're stressed and you're tired, do whatever you need to do. Take the money and pay off your debt and do whatever you want. But if you want to do this and you want to learn to always have fish, where you and your family are eating on the boat all the time, and you're still catching fish when you're not even fishing, when you're still, in fact, you're starting to travel into deeper waters, and you're starting to explore larger, better fish, and that can feed you even longer and bring even more appetite for you, taste even better. I said, then perhaps the education, like you told me, Jesse, manage some of the debt. He's like, what if I put aside a year's worth of rent? I'm like, do it. Put a year's worth of rent away, and then use the education. Perhaps you only have 15,000 left, and you could put a down payment on the billing, and then you can get the whole package, and then you can make the payment with the rent payments that you're getting from your house. Right? We went through some scenarios, and I'm not telling him what to do, but I'm opening his mind. He, at the end of the conversation, we had step 1. Let's figure out if he wants to start getting a traditional bank to look at his house as a rental, right? Number 2, talk to private people at his work, both UPS and FedEx, and see if he's got some friends. At least make a list of 5 people that potentially could be his private lender, right? I told him, I thought maybe, if you're concerned about the bills at the end of the month and bringing on another bill, if you're going to consider doing the billing to any level, let's figure out what your expenses and income are. All right. So you guys get the point. At the end of the day, in an hour and 10 minutes through this one-on-one, I brought up the education and the billing payment here on my computer, and I showed it to him. But it was minutes. It was a fraction of the time. The time was spent getting to know Jesse and where he is in his world and what options he has to fund. And then we located one, and we focused on the one, and we tried to figure out what it is that would make him the most comfortable utilizing that asset in order, or that resource to pay for the education, right? And why the education is an option, not necessarily what to do, but an option, so he knows what to do. So he has choices as to what to do. He may still pay off the debt, who knows? But I was able to tell him a story, right? Stories sell, and share with him some options. And so when he left, he was extremely excited about getting started. And Mary's going to go ahead and place his order today, and then they're going to get right to work on deciding this asset. It doesn't always work out like, okay, the end of the day, the sale's closed and things like that. But we asked for the sale. He's open to placing the order, getting the order started, making a list, and he's got homework to do from when he left the one-on-one, right? Anyway, just a quick thought. Now remember, any thoughts, comments, questions? I figured this training a little bit would be some real life experiences that I'm going through right now. The other thing I wanted to say is, if anybody here wants to bring up a point about or a topic about the whole pandemic, through this last 4 or 5 or 6 months of, your business not going to where you want it to in the level, or whatever you've got going on, then we can go that direction too. Perhaps there's something you're feeling that maybe as we open up a little bit, the election's nearing, we can also talk about, what we've got going on. I'll tell you, I was on the Pit Pat call yesterday. It was an amazing training or discussion rather, mastermind. And I'm fortunate and grateful that I get to be on that call once a month with Bob Snyder and the pack. And, there's a lot of people making a lot of money, making a lot of sales and helping a lot of people. And then there's a lot of people not making a lot of money and not making any money because we're just not getting enough people in front of the information. And the people that we're getting in front of the information are not qualified, right? Bob Snyder says this, he says, what is our ideal customer, right? Our ideal customer is somebody that has desire, all right? It's not what they do for a living, what they look like, where they come from, or anything like that, right? We all know that. It's somebody with a desire. And the desire does not have to come from desperation or, like in my position, money, financial stress, or anything like that. The desire just has to come from me. I'm going to tell a story about that right now. But not only do they have a desire, right? When you look at my situation, I was 38. You guys know this, right? I told Jesse this yesterday. When I was 38 years old, I had gone through a bad business decision that cost me my stores in San Diego. Little did I know that would ever happen. I mean, when I signed the dotted line for a $360,000 SBA loan in 2003, when I put $100,000 down, when I carried took on a $5,000 a month owner financed second lien on the business to satisfy a $600,000 purchase to buy out my partners. At no point during that time frame, I remember walking out of that closing and did I ever think that I would lose my business, right? And the decisions I made. But that actually was the beginning of the end because I overpaid and I was uneducated. I was ignorant when it came to buying a business. And so when I was 38, I'd filed bankruptcy 2 years prior. So I'd just come out of bankruptcy. So my credit was horrible. Right. I had 2 credit cards for $300 and $500, one each. And then I had one for $500. I had no car. I had no house. I had no retirement. I had no cash. I had no credit. Right. I had nothing except the girl I was dating. Right. And I was changing careers. I mean, I literally went from being a business owner, a pro skier, to a business owner for 8 years to a job as a loan officer in an industry that I had no idea about, real estate. But one thing that I had was a desire to be wealthy again, to make money again, to pay my bills. I was desperate, right? But it wasn't just desire. What else did I have, you guys? I had a resource. I was qualified because I had a resource. When I talked to my guy and he's like, it's 20 grand, I did not go, I don't have 20 grand, right? For some reason. Like I physically knew I didn't have it, but at no point in my brain did I go, I can't borrow $20,000. Like I didn't care if it cost 100,000. If I'd have gone to Rich Dad Poor Dad before Renatus, I probably would have bought Rich Dad Poor Dad. Like I didn't care. I found something that I didn't know about, which was education in real estate, investing, not becoming a realtor. And so, but I was in a position where I did know somebody and I was willing to do whatever it takes, which was go ask the people that literally had already helped me in the past and I failed, right? The individual that I borrowed someone's credit in my family. I didn't borrow money. I didn't borrow their cash. I didn't have them go get a loan. I did all the work. And when it came down to it, they signed on the dotted line as a co-signer for a loan. And this individual, I owed them $49,000 from my failed previous business, right? Where I did ask them to go get me cash, and they did. And I never was able to pay that back. But I was resourceful in the fact that I remember telling them that I owe you this money and I finally figured out how I'm going to pay you back. But I need your help in order to do it. Right? So I'm not talking about the story of how I got the money, but what I'm talking about is I had a resource. Like I wasn't coming from a place where I knew nobody. If somebody tells you, you're going to try to overcome the objection, but if people are telling you There's no way they could ever borrow money from anybody. They're not going to ask their parents. I'm going to do this on my own. Good. Go do it on your own. Give me a call, bro. Like, they're not coachable. Like, my 5-star is gone, right? My 5-star was gone within 6 months of working with me. Doesn't matter. Like, he never had to ask me to go get money. He never had to ask me to make a list of people that I knew that I could go borrow the money from. Do you follow me on this? I did it on my own. I was resourceful. So Bob Snyder's exact person of whom you're looking for is desire with resources. Qualify them, and you will spend less time in rejection and less time pulling people through quicksand, right? You will spend less time going and collecting fish out of the ocean and giving them and watching them run away and eat the fish and come back 6 months later asking for another fish. You can have all those people on the boat you want, but you will never get your dreams accomplished. You want to work with people that want to learn to fish. You want to work with people that want to go out there and make it happen. So when their fishing boat is cruising along, they can feed their family and their family's family and not miss a beat. Right? So let me talk about desire, right? I had a friend, Amy, who I have not literally spoken to since 1987. I went to high school. She dated a couple of my best friends throughout high school. She was a cheerleader, and in sports, I knew her really well. She lived down the street from me and was a good friend. And she reached out to me on one of my Facebook posts and said, "Hey, I'm interested. I got this opportunity. Can you give me can you reach out to me and give me a little advice?" And so I told her, I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And I know that if she's watched me on Facebook, she knows that I sell education to some degree. I don't post Renata stuff, right? But I'm always talking to people on Facebook about helping them, or, I can help you learn and all that stuff, right? So she can read between the lines. She's intelligent. So, my first thing was, one of the messages I had in Facebook Messenger before I got on the phone, this was the process, you guys. So this is an absolute gonna be sale. Okay. I would bet my world on it. And I'm excited to work with her, but, let me talk to you about desire, right? So, the first thing I said is, "Hey, absolutely. I'll give you whatever advice you need." You know what I mean? And imagine, even if you don't have the experience that I have, you would find the answers to their questions, right? If anybody does this. So if you're posting and you're posting other people's posts and you're making a comment about some of the things that not that you're doing, but that you're learning to do, or things like that, it is going to create intrigue with people in your world. The reason it's going to do that is because you're doing something they're already thinking of. They're not sitting there where they're inheriting a house and all of a sudden they look at your post and they go, "Oh, well, I'm going to wait till Johnny gets a deal done and then posts about the fact that he has a rental, that he got a tenant in there and fixed it up and is cash flowing." They're not thinking that. They're thinking, "Wow, Johnny knows about rentals. I wonder, I should ask him something." You know what I'm saying? Like, they're concerned about themselves and how you can help them for free, right? They're not opposed to education or anything like that, but they don't even know that they're not even thinking along those lines. So right off the bat, I'm like, "Absolutely, I'll help you. Whatever advice you need, Amy, good talking to you, whatever." Quick message, right to the point. I'm like, "Hey, are you interested in learning a little bit about the education as well, and some of the resources I use? Or are you just interested?" This was literally a message, like message number 2 on Facebook, after she pinged me on Facebook Messenger. And she's like, "You know what, right now, maybe in a couple months I'd be interested, but I'm really looking for some advice. I got a situation coming up." I'm like, "No problem, whatever." Right. And I'm going into this mindset 100%. I can help anybody and everybody by giving them a fish and absolutely getting them through whatever they want. And you folks, I don't care if you're day 1 or day 25 million, you could do this too. You could get the resources. You could call me. I can help you. You can call Michael, Dane, anybody that's in your downline, upline, and you can talk to anybody in your community and they'll help you with the real estate. You can get on Gavin McCaleb's coaching call. You can study your education or do all of the above and help anybody with real estate education and help them get through their situation and feel good about it, whether you've ever done the deal or not. but then you've helped them get them a fish and they're going to go eat. So going into my conversation yesterday with Amy was that I was going to have a conversation and give her advice. And I was going to also pitch the education, right? And I was going to question it. I'm not asking for the sale. She's never even seen anything, but I'm going to talk about it, right? And test the waters to see her level. Now, remember, we're focusing on desire. So I called Amy. Now and I know I'm taking time, but this is a one-on-one that I'm talking about that I did 3 one-on-ones yesterday that potentially will result in, I think, about $25,000, right? And maybe not by this month, but within the end of the year. So in talking to Amy, so what I'm getting at is that these are things that you have to be doing, right? If you don't know how to do this, you have to prepare with it with your 5-star from these trainings and practice it, or just do it, right? Michael Huggins, in the video he played the other day, right? You want to make $10,000, just do it. In order to do it, you got to do it a one-on-one, just do it. You can't say the wrong thing to the right person. Okay. So I planned on calling Amy and I knew it. So I knew it was at noon my time, 3 Michigan time. So when I called her, I was going to the gym and it was noon my time. And I had a set thing. I had to be somewhere at 2:00, but I knew that I was going to cut into my gym time if this took longer. So I set the time aside and I parked my truck at the gym parking lot, let it run. And I did the one-on-one right there, knowing it's going to take some time because I haven't talked to Amy in 30 freaking years. So I'm absolutely going to spend some time talking to her. She told me, that about her daughter in Paris and all her kids and what she's been doing. But I'm asking questions. And I also understand, I learned that, you know what? Owns her house free and clear. Owns her cars free and clear. No debt. Has a pension through her school. She's retiring this year, or is it this year or 2 years after 30 years in schools, right? I know all about the house that she's talking about, right? But first I knew I was going to spend time and I wanted to naturally. I mean, human nature, I want to get to know my friend again, right? And I asked a lot more questions about her life than she did about mine. We talked about flying to Europe. Her son, her daughter lives in Paris and her daughter lived in Scotland for like 5 years. And her son lives in Ireland, and which is crazy, right? And so we talked about flying overseas and what it's like. And we talked about all kinds of stuff, right? And then in between, I'd ask questions about the house and we started finally talking. I'm like, okay, so what's your situation? And naturally, you guys, I'm telling you, people like to talk. It's okay. That's what we're there for. She wanted to tell me. So, she told me she's already got a lawyer and she hired a lawyer and got an LLC, right? So imagine if I jumped in and didn't listen and I started talking about the essentials. And I'm like, oh, you can learn how to set up an LLC. And it's not even what she's looking for, right? So I didn't do that. I'm just listening. I wasn't there to sell education. I was there to build a rapport and then see where she would be, right? So the interesting thing is we're talking about this house. She's got an LLC. The house is free and clear, right? And then I threw out some advice, right? She's like, well, I'm thinking about, my dad's going to sell me the house this way. And I've got my brother, so I don't have time to tell the whole story, but, I'm finding out all about the house and what she wants to do. And she's going to rent it to some friends and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is great. You've got an LLC. You'll be protected from your personal assets. She's like, yeah, I understand. She's like, oh, good. I did something right. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. You can set up checkbook control. She knew nothing about tax write-offs, nothing about depreciation. And she's like, she's like, in the future, I'd be interested in some of the education. I really want to make this. She's like, this is the first time I feel like I'm an adult, joking around, but she's running the finances. She's actually, her husband's not interested in this. She's going to run this house. She wants another rental. She wants to get a few more rentals. She wants to, do this full time when she retires. She wants to pass on a legacy to her children. And she's like, well, I'm going to do this after I quit my job. And I'm like, imagine this. I said, what if you learned a little bit about leveraging some of the assets you have? I said, it's a lot easier to get a loan when you have a job to pay for the loan than when you don't have a job. I said, you might want to learn a little bit about, I even asked it in the question. I said, would it help you if you knew a little bit more about loans where you could leverage your house, both of your houses perhaps during an uptime like today when the values are higher, and get lines of credit so you can use them to buy rentals when you're finally retired and you have more time. I said, if you wait and retire, you're only going to have a pension. You won't have the normal income you have, and it'll be harder for you to qualify. Did you know that? And she's like, oh, I didn't even think of that. And I said, the other thing is, I said, if you want to pull cash out of this property, you have to put a lien on the property. You can't just have your dad give it to you behind the scenes. That's one thing, and do a little napkin promissory note. I said, but if you put a lien on the property, then and so I'm giving her a little bit of advice, and you folks could learn this from your understanding mortgages class. You could learn it from your from some of your acquisitions courses, right? Creative acquisitions. That if you're doing any type of BRRRR method, any type of buy and refi, that you've got to season the title, right? She doesn't know what season the title means. So I was able to throw in some advice and help her out, right, on the immediate need. And I dropped all kinds of questions on the education, right? About, hey, some of the things that we teach, you'll learn this, right? And I foreshadow all the time, always pretty good. When you get in this education, you're going to love it because you're going to see how you can do this. You're going to see how you could actually get a line of credit on this property, not even use it till you're ready to retire, but now you've qualified it, it's already there. And then you'll learn how to buy another rental property. You might want to buy a property. I'm like, hey, do you ever get back? And so we went back to talking about going back home. Well, we live in a beautiful area where we grow up on a lake, up in Upper Michigan, right? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, you know what? I'm like, yeah. Jono's got a place up on the lake. We're talking about, like, Sherry and I have been looking. We've been under contract on 2 different places. I go, perhaps you and your husband, you guys ever want it? She's like, we would retire there. I'm like, imagine if you bought a lake house, right? And you bought it so you could go part-time of that year, and then you rented it out short time on the side. She's like, oh, I never thought of that. I'm like, yeah, you could actually use the equity from this house to put a down payment, and while you're still working, get a loan on the new house. She's like, oh, that would be amazing, right? I'm giving her ideas, and I'm asking her if that would be something she'd want to do. She's like, oh, we would totally retire there. That would be great. And then when we're done, we could go live there half time of the year. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. So it's interesting because I said, you may want to set yourself up, right? Would you think it would be better that kind of, obviously, that let me ask you this, if education is key, right? And I know she's in the education industry, right? She's a teacher, been a teacher for 30 years. And she's like, oh, absolutely, right? So I know the answers to some of the questions I'm asking. And again, I'm only there to give her advice, but I'm there 100% to help her become a fisherman, help her become a real estate investor, not just own one house that may or may not run into problems in the future, right? And help her see what she doesn't know, right? But then the way that I can do this forever is by setting her up, right? Asking her, I'm like, would you like to have more than one house? She's like, yeah, I'd love to be able to leave a couple more houses. Like, my dad leaving me this house free and clear is unbelievable, right? I'm going to pay him for it, but I'm paying, half the value of what the house is, right? My dad doesn't need the money, and it's part of my inheritance, right? So, so she's really excited about this. And I'm like, what would it be like if you left, 2 or 3 of these houses to each of your children, free and clear? You could set up a legacy for your grandkids. She's like, yeah. She's like, that would be great. That's exactly what I want to do. I said, so when you retire, do you want to retire, stop, and then start all over again? Or do you want to hit the ground running? She's like, well, yeah, I'd much rather have wheels. I'm like, exactly. So, real estate education and learning real estate investing is a process. It takes time. So you can integrate that in and be prepared for when you're actually retired. So at the end of the conversation, I simply asked this. I said, let me ask you, would you be interested and open to taking a look at some of the videos on some of the education, just to get an idea? Because she told me multiple times, maybe in a couple months when I get this property rented, I would be interested in taking a look at the education, but right now I'm not. And I acknowledged that and said, totally fine. But then again, at the end, I'm like, would you want to take a look at some of the classes now and just kind of get an idea of what it's looked like? And then you and I could, regroup. You're going to keep filling me in on the thing. If you got any questions on the education, on the property, just hit me up, call me, text me, whatever you do, I'll walk you through whatever I can on giving you advice on this deal. But in the meantime, if you want, would you be interested? She's like, yeah, let me send you my email. So after all this, she wasn't going to get education for 2 years. Then she was going to get education at the end of the year. And now she's interested in looking at it tomorrow. I'm not saying she's going to buy it next week. All I'm saying is, if I don't ask they're not going to do it. If I don't help them understand why and what's possible and potential. And the thing is, she's telling me, I'm not telling her what she wants to do with her money and her lines of credit. I'm asking her, what would it be like if you did this? Would you ever want to go back up to the UP? She's like, because she told me she hadn't been up at the UP in 30 years. She went back once. She's like, we never go back up there. We're too busy. And she's like, but we would retire there tomorrow if my husband would quit his job. And she's looking forward to being an adult and running the books and having an accountant and managing this property, right? And so it's so cool when you learn about it. And then I'm talking about managing property managers, because you don't want to manage 6 properties, right? And all these things that just drop in little tiny hints about, like, oh, I didn't even know you could do that, right? Go ahead, Alvin. Did you have something? Cool. All right. I was just checking. All right. This is gold. I'm just checking with yeah, you're so welcome. All right. I got a little bit more time. I'll finish up with one more story. So that's my Amy story, you guys. That was, to me, that was a one-on-one. She'd never been to anything, right? But she's interested in real estate. And I'm not shoving education down her throat. I'm not selling her anything. I'm just talking and I'm asking questions. And then we can provide opportunity, you guys. We're building longer term relationships. But the thing, when you start doing this with your warm market, you don't need to wait for someone to ping you on Messenger to get out and reach out in front of them and start talking and just asking questions and being on purpose. And if you don't know how to do this, then we'll help you. These trainings will help you. And just like I just said, just do it. You can't screw it up. It might feel awkward or terrible, but you'll get the hang of it and it'll become smoother down the road. And you can always circle back to the people you started out with. All right. Storytelling to bring benefits. Absolutely. Yeah, perfect. You funded her essentials. I mean, Melissa, that's a great story. Tell your entire team that. Tell other people that. That's so cool, because these are so true. You know, Dane Clark just talked about, 2 or 3 people in that $38,000 a month he just had came from people that he vetted and went through the entire process and said no 8 months ago, pre-COVID, right? All right. I'll tell you one more and I'll make it quick. On the same time, this is where most of us will spend our time, right? I've been working with my buddy, Dave. Now, Dave's a drip. Dave is, let's see. All right, so Tobo, I would say shoot me a text. If you can grab my number, I'll put it in there at the end again, or I'll put it in there right now. I would shoot me a text and then I can help you with that. Unless you want me to go over it right now with everybody. It's up to you. He was talking, you guys can read the chat. He was talking about an Airbnb property. It's doing really well. Should I buy another one next to me? But it's much more expensive. So that's probably too long for what we've got time left. But all right. So Dave, you guys has been to everything, right? And if people don't buy by the time the 4th, 5th, or 6th event, especially in today's market, then it's a financial problem, most likely. And in Dave's situation, it is. But I'll tell you what I did was, I haven't talked to him in a couple weeks. He's been through the whole process and he's basically a no right now. I mean, he's ready and willing, but he, perfect, Tobo, thank you. And you got it, brother. But he really wants it. He has a desire. It's not a burning desire, I would say, but he's somebody that I know could do well in it. And, I've gotten to know him. I've spent some time with him, but I don't want to spend a lot more time with him. But this is the typical person, you guys. This is the thing. He's not a no for me. He's on my list and he's on my notes. And so I sent him a text and I got him into a mastermind last week. He went to the Super Saturday this week. And so I had an excuse to follow up with him. So I texted him and say, hey, I wasn't like, hey, how you doing? It was, let's follow up on the Super Saturday, right? What's a good time? Should I call you today? Tell me this. What did you like the best about what you learned on Saturday, right? So these questions are on purpose. And so he actually texted me, he's like, anytime I should be available in the next hour. Then he texted me, interesting, I didn't realize that it was an MLM or something like that. So when I called him, I had the first question. Oh,
is it a good thing or a bad thing that's an MLM? And he goes, oh, neither really. Just, you know, I was uncertain about how it really worked, and it really got me thinking, right? And I was thinking, since the guy's struggling, perhaps the business is something he may or may not be interested in. That's why I put him to the Super Saturday. If he was only like, and he's only interested in real estate. We never mentioned the business before, but I'm going nowhere with him buying the education. So I figured, why not throw him at an ICM? You know, Michael's signing ICMs up. Ryan Black's signing ICMs up, just ICMs. And they're turning people into sales after they get going in the marketing. And they're bringing them a warm market. So maybe Dave would bring me a warm market. Why would I not want to do what the pack is doing? I'm coachable. I'll learn, right? So the point to this part, as I finish this up, is I work with Dave. I put him on a drip. I sent him to a meeting, and now I had another reason to follow up with him. At the end of the day, we're having the same conversations, right? And I asked him, I said, how do you feel then about maybe even starting as an ICM? And what, you know, now that you can see, given that your situation financially, would it be in your best interest to even get the essentials instead of only going all or nothing? And he started to open up. He's like, yeah, the essentials, I thought originally that I would only want to do this if I could get the combo, and I'm nowhere near the combo right now. But now the essentials is something I could do. So right off the bat, I'm like, great. Do you want me to place your order now? We can get the signatures going. That's step one. I went right through the process, right? Ask for the sale immediately. I'll place your essentials. You know, we'll decide on the ICM. We can get a little more details on that. Let's place the essentials order. You know, let's get you started in the education. I go, don't forget, you know, you do have a 7-day right of rescission, but, you know, I've never had anybody exercise that. So I'm not really worried about that at all. But, you know, you've got that in your back pocket. Let's get the order placed. Let's get your signatures verified. After that, of course, step two, we'll figure out the funding, right? If you're going to use a couple credit cards, whatever it is you want, you decide on that tonight, and we'll fund your order tomorrow. And then boom, step three, we get you started, right? And he thought about it, and he's like, well, I'm going to hold off right now. Fine, but I don't care. I asked for the order. I'm probably going to have to ask the order for the order 15 more times with the combo and everything else. I don't care. I'm just going through what people are telling me to go through in steps, what I know to be true, right? I don't care if he buys the essentials today or not. I mean, obviously we all care, but you know what I'm saying? I'm going to go through this process. He's on a drip. I'm not worried about following up with him today. I'm not worried about following up tomorrow, but come the 26th, a week before the 26th, he's going to get a drip text. He's going to get a phone call from me, and I'm going to send him to the intensive with Brian Sump, right? And I'm going to plug five or six other people exactly like that. And at some point, at some time, one of these 5 or 6 people who are ready, but they're not willing or able, right? They're going to become willing and able, and they're going to fund the education. And they're on my drip. So they're my little trolling pole, right? They're my fishing pole that's going to catch the biggest fish out there, right? This trolling pole. In the meantime, I've got spinners going. I got my $350, or actually it's like I used to fish, right, in San Diego, and I had like a $850 reel that I bought, and I made this. I'm a Detroit Red Wings fan, huge hockey fan, and so I had this custom fishing pole made in Detroit Red Wings colors with a logo on it, and that's my pole, right, that I want to catch the big fish on, and really, you know, the one I man all the time. That's my day-to-day operations. But right now he's just on the trolling line and out there with another few people, right? These are the tip. That's a one-on-one I did yesterday. It took me, you know, 35, 40 minutes on the phone, listening to this guy just ramble on. Good guy, likes to talks about his property he's closing on. And, you know, he's just up in the air on the fence. I'm not going to waste my time, you know, but I'm not going to, you know, there's a little bit of time I was driving, so it wasn't the end of the world, right? I set up a time to talk to him. And he went to a meeting, so I'm going to follow up right away. I'm not going to wait 4 days and follow up about the ICM. It was another excuse. So anyway, there's a few actual things that happen in our day-to-day lives of the people that are making money in this company that it's important that if you're not having conversations like this, then, and if you are and you're struggling with them, it's okay. They're not all going to work out. They're not all going to pan out, but the only difference between me, Dane Clark, the PAC members, and maybe you and me and the pit members or whatever the case is, or maybe it's the top 10 that are on the list or whatever it is they're just putting the right people in front of the information more often. All right. They have way more fishing poles. They have way more leads. They have way more people in front of the information. They're asking way more questions, and they're asking for way more sales. And that's it. It's just numbers. It's not a numbers game. It's not just about getting butts and seats, but it is about getting qualified. Bob Snyder, your ideal customer, in front of the information. And the ideal customer is not broke. The ideal customer is not desperate. The ideal customer has a job. The ideal customer has some sort of resource. Amy's desire is to finally become an adult. It's not about that she doesn't have the resource or anything like that, and she doesn't need education. None of those things. Her desire is to be a landlord and own property and start this new career. And therefore, I can work with that. I can work with somebody with desire, right? And then I isolated and identified resources, right? By having conversations and asking questions, you guys. So no problem. Chai, I know you got to leave. That's fine, you guys. It's after 8. I totally understand. I'm going to double check the checks. Something similar happened this warm market. I've been inviting for 3 years. Mike Weird's help. Way to go, Mike. Ward helped her out. Restarted her funder. That's awesome. That's so cool, Melissa. Deborah, storytelling to benefit. Yep. Mike White, this is gold. Awesome, buddy. Appreciate your insight there. Tobo's going to give me a call or a text. And Frank, I think you got my number, Frank. So reach out, whatever you need. I totally get it. This is Jenna, my spouse. Oh, no problem, Jenna. Awesome. I get it. Awesome. Sweet. So, all right, you guys, any thoughts, comments, questions? Mike, there he is. Good job helping out. That's so cool. I love to hear these stories. Doesn't have to be next year, Frank. Doesn't have to be next year. All right. So I'll put it one more time in the 760-533-3141.
Thank you, Bill. You're awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Thanks, Gilda. Thanks, Jenna.
Great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I hope it helped. Have conversations, you guys.
Absolutely.
They don't have to call you up and say, I'm ready to get going. They don't have to call you and say, I'm interested in real estate. It's just, any little thing. I always want to move them right to a personal conversation. And you got to dedicate the time. You've got to set an hour aside. I knew, and talking to Amy, that went into 15 minutes of my gym time. And I knew I was going to cut my gym time short. But you know what was more important to me was talking to Amy and having a lead and helping her out, and then possibly getting her in Renatus. And so I was willing to make that sacrifice, and I had to cut my Mondays is chest day. So I had to cut it down a little short. I only did 45 minutes because I had to get to an appointment at 2. So awesome. Celeste, you're very welcome. Isaac, you're very welcome. John, Deborah, everybody, you guys, I love you guys. I just really appreciate everybody here. And you guys got my information. Keely, you rock too, girl. Love it. And Wanda, good to see you here. And let's all follow up tomorrow with Dane. Remember, Michael Huggins, even if you're not really selling profits right now, whatever it is, I would recommend Michael Huggins has got a pretty amazing attitude. And, he's created a little shift in his world right now as well. Shaved his beard yesterday, right on the call live. Unbelievable, Michael. Only Michael, right? And he does a profits training at noon today, 11 Pacific time, and jump on that call. Just listen to it if you're at work or whatever, and prepare yourself for another opportunity. Just get in front of as much information, you guys, as you can every week, and spend a few hours a week doing money-making activities, which is talking to people. All right? Change your life, change their life, have a happy life. All right, love you guys. I'll see you all tomorrow with Dane Clark.
You too.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody. Keels, I'll let you. Oh, wait. Michael doing straight line. I have no idea. I'm assuming he is. Isaac, you're good. Kim, thank you. I don't know. I'm assuming Michael's doing straight line today. All right. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Nancy.
Awesome.
job. Thanks, Bill.
You're welcome, girl. Thank you so much. I appreciate
Those
every one of
stories.
you guys. Awesome.